Welcome to Deep Thought, Perceptions. I'm going to tell you what, one of the biggest obstacles to communication between people is that they have just different perceptions of the same thing. And these perceptions are based on their own personal life experiences and also the beliefs, good and bad, that they've developed over life. So they're going to look at stuff in a different way. Now, I just did a video the other day on my main channel about how select and non-select men will perceive relationships. To reiterate, select men, hey, relationships are great. Women are great. Don't have any reason to argue with them. While non-select men is like, oh, these women are evil and stuff. But it's based on their experience. And see, one of the things is with perception. Whatever perception that you develop, what's going to happen, several things are going to happen. One, when people have a belief system, when they have a perception of reality, they automatically seek validation of that reality. They seek validation of that reality on one hand, and then on the other hand, they try to invalidate anything that denies their perception. Like if you have, once again, let me use the relationship example because that's a very good one. Now you have a guy, he is constantly rejected by women, right? And he feels like it's because he's unattractive and all of that, and that women are wrong because that's been his experience. That's his perception. On one hand, he will subconsciously be drawn to situations where this belief will be reinforced. Right? So instead of, what's going to happen, instead of running into women who might tell him that, you're a handsome guy, you're an interesting guy, he will subconsciously put himself in a position where he will constantly meet the women who will tell him, oh yeah, you ugly, you uninterested, and all of that stuff. Or it's the same with women who believe there's nothing but all men are bad and they're evil, they're out to hurt her and everything. She's not going to deal with that woman. I mean, the men who are going to say, "Oh, you beautiful and everything." She's going to be subconsciously drawn to situations where men will validate that thing, right? And this is very important because beliefs are magnetized. And see, just because of the connections between us all, the energetic connections, we automatically seek out stuff that reaffirms our beliefs, whether the beliefs are good or bad. Now, if I, as a man, have a belief that all women are, they're beautiful, they're cooperative with me, guess what I get all the time? Because subconsciously, I'll avoid situations where a woman will invalidate that thing. See how that works? Because remember, beliefs are magnetized. When you have a belief, all of a sudden, you will do things, you will subconsciously do things, go places where it can be reinforced. It's like the racists. If you have a white person who believes all blacks are inferior, all blacks are stupid, all blacks behave badly, guess what they're going to see? Now, see, here's the deep thing. In any situation, whether it's dealing with race, politics, business practice, anything, when a person is presented with something that goes against it, they will A, try to invalidate it, say, oh, that's not really happening, or B, try to rationalize it. And the worst thing that could happen is they have cognitive dissonance. It can actually hurt them. Like if you can like really intensely attack a person's belief system and present them with truth that they cannot rationalize away, you can literally kill them. Because a person's belief systems actually affect how they look. It affects how they walk. It affects how they dress. That's how deep it is. And, I did a podcast talking about how fear is a smart weapon. Another one, if you can, there's no more powerful weapon than just truth. Like if you just take away every rationalization from a person, you can destroy them down to the being. They won't be able to move. Because, ultimately it's about the spirit. The spirit is what animates us. But the spirit is also based on those beliefs, those perceptions and everything. So if you attack those beliefs, you're basically attacking those persons. That's why people get real hostile. Even if you present information that contradicts their beliefs in a calm way, positive way, you're not angry, they'll say you're attacking them. They'll say you hate them. Think about it. Does that sound familiar? They'll say that doesn't really exist. Let me use another example from the religion. Because you see, one thing, because I said at first for this Deep Thought channel, I wasn't going to get too deep into relationships. But the reality is, if you're going to get deep, that's where all the great examples are. And like I said in an earlier podcast, a priest told me, an African traditional priest said, relationships are the vehicle of spiritual growth. So, everything happens within the relationships, right? But, it's like those situations. I was going to get into this. It's those situations where, because I got several I was going to pull from. One is when I wrote an article about successful black men. This was years ago, right? I had several women actually contact me, or I saw on message boards that were talking about the article, who said these men don't exist. This is fake. That's because their belief system is those men don't exist. So even if you present them with the men, if you presented them with the men with the degrees or with the money, show them the bank accounts or anything, they would actually not necessarily accept it. Or they'll say this is an exception. But then if you present them with 1,000 such men, they'll just they're ready to, they'll fall off. They will literally have cognitive dissonance. They could actually get sick from it. That's why sometimes if you hit somebody with something real hard, they can become physically sick. Because remember one thing, the body doesn't move without the spirit. And on another podcast, a lot of disease out here, a lot of sickness out here has its origin. Really, all of it has its origin in the spirit, one way or the other. And just on a little tangent, that's why if you really want to cure something, you got to cure the mindset that the person had that when they caught it to begin with. That's a little secret why some metaphysicians can say they ain't worried about AIDS or anything because of their mindset. And part of it too, a little secret is, and they'll avoid situations, subconsciously avoid situations where they actually get it. So, yeah, it's that deep. It's that deep. This Deep Thought channel is becoming increasingly a philosophical channel too. Because, I did a video on my main channel talking about the classes I took in college. I had to take 3 philosophy classes. Plus, I went to a college prep high school, so I took some psychology and philosophy, religion classes there. So, y'all going to get a lot of philosophy, just a lot of stuff to make you think. I'm not just going to regurgitate information on here. I got Google for that. But the different perceptions people have. Now, a lot of people, it's hard to call someone's beliefs false, but most people have some type of false belief. In fact, every single person has a false belief that's affected them. Every single person. Now, it's not necessarily about reality, but how they interact with reality. Like you feel like you have some men and women who feel like they have to control people around them for happiness. That's a false belief. And it's hard to tell them that, no, you don't have to. But that's their perception, Or you got other folks who, they have a victim mentality. That's their perception. Everybody's trying to do them in. And they will usually get in a situation where, that's happening. Because remember, beliefs are magnetized. You will draw, it's not even that you will draw the situations to you. See, a lot of people use that word law of attraction and all that stuff, but you'll go seek it out. You know, it's deep to the point. Using the relationship example again, if you have a certain belief, if a man or a woman goes in a room full of the opposite sex and they have a certain belief about the opposite sex, positive or negative, I guarantee, and I'm going to use the word guarantee, they're going to run into the people or be drawn to the people who have that belief. And like I said, that's all of us, even me. Because I always examine the type of women that I seem to have the strongest connection to. All of them have a certain archetype. And isn't that so much the body? Yeah, I know I love the booty. But it's always a certain mental aspect I'll keep to myself. But it's like never fails. I was like, damn, how come I keep running into these same women? It's like, oh, wait a minute. I can trace this belief I developed, when I was young. That imprint. And in fact, the imprint comes into it because part of the thing with a woman's imprint or a man's imprint, it ain't just the, ain't just the womb or even just the ego. It's the belief system. If a woman's imprint is a straight up thug, her perception is that the men who will satisfy or do the same thing are thugs. Or that this is what, she develops that belief. Okay, this is what I have to do to get enjoyment. Or this is how sex is supposed to be. Like an example, you get a lot of women who want their asses whipped. They want somebody to beat them. They'll get into something like BDSM or something like that. As submissives, or they'll just find an abusive type of man. Look at their imprint. They develop the belief that this is how a man's supposed to behave. So when they meet a man who's going to treat them well, that goes against their belief system. They not even going to find them attractive. And even if they force a relationship, as soon as a guy comes along that fits her belief system, she's going to get into it. That's the perception. Now, one of the things, now I know some people caught in some stuff. One of the things that I do with my coaching, and this is one of the things when I talk to dudes, I don't give them like A, B, and C. That's superficial. What I'll do is just talk with them. Because what it is, as you're talking with me, I'm changing your perception of something. That's it. And once you change the perception of something and you change your thinking, all of a sudden, it goes different. Like, for example, you get a guy who has trouble with women. He feel like they're doing this and that. I deal with them a little while, right? And, I give them some basic stuff to do, but really what I'm doing is talking, and I might even tell them some of my experiences. What I'm doing is changing his perception of what's happening to him, what he's seeing and everything. And then once I can tweak it enough and change it enough, he starts developing new beliefs and new perceptions. Then he'll see, well, wait a minute, all these women aren't wrong, aren't against me. They actually for me. I'll give you an example. Now, I've said several times that I don't really have any trouble dealing with dimes or very attractive women. And, part of that perception was started, one, with the women in my family, because, since they're family members, I'm not going to look at them sexually. I was forced to look at very attractive women, like, for their personalities. And the fact that they could, like, scratch up comic books and stuff and mess up my collection. Oh, man, I'm still salty over that. You know what? I had X-Men 94. Anybody who's familiar with comics know that is the book. My cousins, they marked that thing up like it was a term paper. It's like, man. Anyway, right? My perception of beautiful women is that, they got personalities and they're going to be cool with me. And that's what I get. That's my perception. Now, another person's perception, they didn't have my experience. Their perception is that the women are evil because that's what's happened to them. The women rejected them evilly. My perception is, oh, beautiful women love me. And I've noticed that, and it's funny, I couldn't figure out why for years. I was like, damn, all these the average looking women don't deal with me, but the beautiful ones are. But my belief system, my perception was that they would naturally be cool with me. and that I could get them. Because what happened was, since I was cool with them, I was able to hook up with some, and then gradually that belief system was, hey, I can always get him. And see, that's the key. That's the key. And then because those beliefs are magnetized, I've had very attractive women actually approach me. Boom. That's the ultimate game right there. So perceptions. You know, if you're having trouble going through life, or you having some issues, always look at your beliefs first and your perceptions of stuff. See, one of the things is people don't change their perceptions. They don't change their beliefs. They don't examine them. They don't say, wait a minute, this isn't serving me. You know? And that's most people. If you know what, if you're not living the highest, best possible life, you need to look at your beliefs. You need to look at how you perceive and stuff. You know? But at the same time, you have to realize you have to grow. Because what happens is many people fight for their perception. And they try to convince the other people to perceive it the same way. But it's not going to happen. Now, you know, you want to think about it. You want to really think about, you know, are your perceptions serving you or are they hurting you? And I don't want to make this one too long, but just think on this. All right? You know, that's somebody used to sign on, and still sign every now and then on a comment. Think on this. Might go back to that. Yeah, that might be my line for this channel. Think on this. Anyway, peace.